Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Tarot Messenger and I wanted to bring you a special episode tonight because of the events that occurred on January 29th, 2025 between the hours of 6 and 7 p.m. Now I usually do relationship readings, but there was something about this reading that had so much symbology related to the accident in Washington, D.C. between the helicopter and the airplane that I felt compelled to bring these messages to you. So thank you very much for tuning in. And I want to give you a little bit of a backstory first to explain what happened and how we got to this point. So a client came in for a numerology reading and we generated the 6-numbered chart, including the life path number, and the chart was extremely accurate. And then as a complement to the numerology reading, I also amplified the reading with this numerology deck. And the symbology and the messages were getting stronger and stronger for the client. So, as I said, the numerology reading was accurate, and this deck here just further verified everything that we had discussed. And then the last portion of the reading was this tarot reading that I did for the client, and I was using this deck here, the Angels Tarot. And that's how we got to this point. And I'm using houses 1 through 12. So we're starting here with house number 1, and then we're going all the way until number 12 because we have 12 houses in astrology. And at the time that I had done this reading, as I said, it was January 29th, between the hours of 6 and 7 p.m., the client and myself did not realize what we were capturing here. And it's my understanding that the accident in DC occurred at 8:46 p.m. Eastern time. So that would have been around 45 minutes after this reading. And the reason it's so significant is because of the question that the client asked me. And the client was asking about psychic abilities and the ability to foretell the future and that sort of thing. And then when I got home and I saw the accident on television, I was blown away. So I came back to recreate this reading. And every time I come back to look at this reading, there is more and more symbology related to that accident and related to numerology, astrology, and tarot. So that is why I thought it was so important to bring this to you. All right, so I'm going to jump right in. So in the very first house here in the Ascendant, we have the King of Pentacles. And you'll notice that we have another king here in the 8th house of death and transformation. And anytime you have 2 kings in a tarot reading, you usually have some kind of a competition or a collision or something like that. The 2 kings are fighting over territory, or they're competing, and sometimes it can become violent. So that is the first thing that I noticed in this reading, that we had 2 people in positions of authority with a lot of responsibility here. And of course we have the element of fire. King of Wands is also known as King of Fire. Okay? All right, so in the second house, we have the Fool card. And of course, in the tarot, the Fool is about to jump off the cliff because the Fool knows that life cannot continue as it has been. The Fool needs a drastic change. And the little dog here represents the subconscious mind of the Fool, reminding the Fool that he's about to embark, he or she is about to embark in something extremely dangerous, right? The Fool does not know where he or she is going to land. There's no parachute, there's nothing. this energy is just going to jump right off that cliff. Well, the energy of the Fool is ruled by the planet of Uranus. And Uranus rules over aviation, it rules over earthquakes, electricity, sudden unexpected change. That's what Uranus is all about. And we'll talk more about that as we go along in the reading. In the third house here, it was my understanding that there were 10 duck hunting buddies that were going to board the plane in Wichita, Kansas. But 3 of them decided to stay behind and drive back to the DC area with all of their equipment and their dogs. So I find it very interesting that we have this 7 energy here in the third house. 3 plus 7 is the number 10. And as I said, there were 10 duck hunting buddies that were going to board that plane in Wichita, and 3 of them decided to stay behind. And I think that the 3 that stayed behind rented a car to drive all the way back to the DC area. Okay? All right, in the fourth house here, we have the 6 of Wands. So we have the element of fire here. And the 6 of Wands is the energy of competition, or I should say, the energy of victory. This is all about someone who has accomplished something extraordinary. And to me, this represents the Olympic champions that were on board flight 5342 on its way to the District of Columbia. Okay? And then also you have the number 6 here, and you have the number 7 here, representing the 67 souls that were called home on the night of January 29th. Okay? Then moving on to the 5th house, we have the 3 of Wands, more fire energy. And to me, this represents the 3 individuals that were on the Black Hawk, on the Hilo aircraft. And this is also in the 5th house. So you have 5 plus 3, of course we have the number 8, which is going to become very significant as we move on through this reading here. But this, I feel like, represents the 3 people on the helicopter. In the 6th house of health and healing, we have the Tower, right? And if you'll notice in the Tower, it's been struck by lightning, and the crown is falling down to the ground. So I feel like this represents the aviation tower and the air traffic controllers that were communicating with the pilots of the Hilo and the airplane. And I just feel like something went terribly wrong there with the communication. I felt like there should have been more verification, or just, way more control over the situation. And I just find it interesting of this lightning striking here. It looks like a ball of fire. But the other symbology that I found here is the tower is Roman numeral number 16. And if you add the numbers 1 plus 6, as we always do in numerology, you come up with the number 7. And this is the 6th house. So again, we're looking at the energy of the number 67 here. Okay? Then in the 7th house, we have the Ace of Swords. And in astrology, the 7th house marks the time when your life becomes public. In houses 1 through 6, your life is private. But in house number 7, and then houses number 7 through 12, it's all about your public life, right? It's about marriage. It's about career. It's all about your presentation to the world. And I also find it very interesting that the sword is cutting right through that crown there. And the element of the Suit of Swords is air, which is also represented by flight. And I have seen some army insignias that feature the sword going directly north, like that. So I just find it very interesting that in this image, or in house number 7, now everyone knows who you are. Before, the world did not know who you are, but right as your energy becomes public, we find this energy here in house number 7. And then of course we have the King of Wands, also known as the King of Fire, in the 8th house of death and transformation. All right, and then in the 9th house of spirituality, more fire energy. We have the 10 of Wands. And the deeper meaning of the 10 of Wands is carrying other people's burdens. And I feel like there are so many references in religion about when you make your transformation and allowing the Lord or the God of your heart to carry your burdens. And also in numerology, the number 10, as we have here, the Roman numeral 10, also represents the number 1. And if you do the numerology for Reagan Airport, it also comes out to the number 1. And flight 5342 was headed towards runway 001 or 010, but it also had the energy of the number 1. Okay? And then in the 10th house of government, of career and government, but in this case, representing the government, we have the Roman numeral 5, and you will see 5 angels fighting amongst each other. And the number 5 also carries the energy of chaos. So the number 5 represents many things. It's excitement, it's discovering the world, it's all about a lot of stimulation. But in this case, we have chaos that is happening here. And if you'll notice, all of these 3 cards came out together. We have the Fool representing Uranus, and then we have the planet of Mars representing the Tower. And anytime you have Uranus and Mars together, we get sudden, unexpected changes that are sometimes extremely violent. And then, of course, we have the energy of chaos here with the number 5 in the 10th house of government. Okay? Then in the 11th house of large organizations, here we have that number 8 again. Like I told you, it was going to become more significant. And it is my understanding that the Hilo helicopters have 2 rotor hubs, one in the front and one in the back. Each rotor has 4, or I should say each hub has 4 rotors. So that makes 8 rotors, also sometimes referred to as blades. So in this image here, we have 8 swords moving down to the ground. And also this angel is blindfolded. And it's my understanding that the pilot of the Hilo was wearing night vision goggles. And this angel has wraps around this energy here, representing the restriction of the airspace in which the Hilo was flying. I have heard that they were 1 mile off course and they were flying 200 feet, 1 or 200 feet above where they should have been. So that should have been restricted airspace. And that's another thing that I mean by, I feel like somebody in the tower kind of dropped the ball on that. But yes, I find it interesting that this is the number 8 representing 8 blades, and being represented in the 11th house of large organizations like the military. Okay, and then in the 12th house, we have the Knight of Cups. The 12th house is also related to the zodiac sign of Pisces. And Pisces is a water sign, as many of you know. This is the only card in this reading that represents the element of water. And you'll see that the Knight of Cups is traveling east, right? So if we have north, south, east, and west, this image here is traveling east. And so is this one. And I just feel like this represents the fire here hitting the water in the Potomac River. Okay, and then I have another image. I went online because I was curious about the insignia for the helo and the military, and the 3 passengers on the helo were members of the 12th Aviation Battalion. And this is very significant because the number 12 here was a very important number to the client that came in for the numerology reading. The number 12 is also the number 3. Extremely significant for the client that came in for the numerology reading. And if you'll notice, there seems to be similarities here in these 2 images, right? Because with the Suit of Swords, you have the element of air, which takes flight with the eagle, and you've got the sword there moving right through the wings, like as if cutting the wings. And then I'm not sure what that image is there. I thought it might be the Washington Memorial, but I'm not sure. If you do know, I would love it if you would drop me a line in the comment section. But as I said, I feel like the Ace of Swords here is representing the decision making. It also represents what happens in your mind. All right. And then the call sign for the helo was Pat 25. And so I did the numerology for that. So P is 7, A is 1, T is 2, and then you just drop these 2 numbers. And if you add them all up together, you get the number 8. And we already discussed the number 8 in the 11th house of large organizations, like for example, the Army. Okay? And then finally, with the airplane, the flight number for the airplane was 5342. And in numerology, that all comes out to the number 5. And we have already discussed the number 5 here in the 10th house of the government, which is where the airplane was landing in the District of the Columbia, where our government resides. So I was just absolutely blown away when I noticed all of the symbology that came out of this reading and how it was related to the question that the customer asked me about utilizing psychic abilities and the ability to tell the future. And it is my understanding that the accident happened at 8:46 p.m. Eastern Time, and this reading was occurring 45 minutes prior to the accident. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I would love it if you would drop me a line and let me know what you think about this reading. And if you see any more symbology within this tarot reading here, I'd love to hear about it. Okay, so there's going to be a lot more coming. I'm going to start my new channel sometime in March. I'm building content for it, and I'm also going to have this reading. I'm also going to post it in my new YouTube channel, Lunar Vedic Astrology. And Lunar Vedic Astrology is all about everything under the umbrella of metaphysics: astrology, numerology, tarot, dream interpretation, long distance healing, crystals, all of it. So we will be exploring a lot more of that in detail, but I really wanted to bring this to you now while it's still fresh in everybody's mind. And I just want to say also that I am so sorry for everyone involved, the families, the friends, everyone involved in this tragic accident. I feel your loss very, very deeply, and you are in my prayers. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please take care. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. All right. See you next time.